We humans go through a sea of overwhelming emotions at some stage of our life, but not everyone knows how to deal with them. This word deal. Do we actually need to deal with our emotions? Let's find out. You see, one thing is certain that people respond to emotions in two different ways. Some try to run away from their emotions by distracting themselves in multiple distractions, and others sit with their emotions. They don't care if it's a good or a bad emotion, they feel deeply and ask why. Now, this video is for both. Because after watching it, the runners might stop running and the observers might stop only observing but actually start understanding the many whys in their minds. Hi, I'm Aisha, and today let's dive deep into one of the most profound lines ever spoken by J.Krishnamurti, an Indian spiritual philosopher and teacher. This simple yet the most misunderstood line is the observer is the observed. Let me repeat it again. The observer is the observed. You know, when I first read this line, it felt mysterious, like there is a hidden truth inside it that I couldn't see. But slowly I realized that this is not something to understand intellectually, and it is something to actually see within your own self. You see, whenever we feel pain, sadness, jealousy, or fear, we instantly label it as bad. We say, I should not feel this way, and we start fighting it. But the more you try to run away or control the pain, the more it will come out heavily. And that's where this line, the observer is the observed, comes to life. Now, who is the observer and who is the observed? You can approach this through countless perspectives, and perhaps even then you will never reach the end. But here we will talk through the lens of human psychology. Because if you understand it in this way, you will begin to see this truth echoing through every moment of your daily life. In your thoughts, in your emotions, in your relationships, you will realize how much freedom hides within this one sentence. The freedom from society's conditioning, freedom from being shaped by others, and freedom to truly meet yourself. The purest form of you existed once, in your childhood when the society has not designed you yet, and now the same purity can exist once again if you truly crack this line. In simple words, now let's come to the topic. The observer is the one who observes. It can be you, me, or anyone who is aware. And the observed is the thing being seen. You see, there are two entities, right? Observer and observed. For example, you are looking at a tree. You are the observer. That tree is the observed. So it seems there are two entities, you and that tree. But Krishnamurti says, they are not two, they are one. The observer is the observed. Now you might think, wait, if the observer is the observed, then it means that tree is me. How? That doesn't make sense, right? But here's the catch. The truth is, you are only seeing the surface. You are only seeing you and the tree. You are not seeing what connects you both. That connection is thought. That connection is thought. Now hear me closely, you are going to love this. For a moment, forget everything and just imagine that you are looking at a tree. Now what happens when you look at it? You start thinking, right? Thoughts arises like, oh, this tree is tall, its trunk is so wide, the leaves are so green. Now what are all these? These are thoughts. And how are you connecting with that tree? Yes, through your thoughts. Your very own thoughts. And this does not apply to just a tree. Everything you observe, an object, a person, or even a feeling, it always starts with a thought in your mind. So it would not be wrong to say that the observed is actually your thought. Because no matter what you are looking at, you are always seeing it through your mind. So the question is, are we really observing now, or are we judging? Interesting, right? Listen me up. You see, when a baby is born, his thoughts are untouched. No judgment, only innocence. The basic human nature was pure. Now, how pure it will remain depends upon how purely you think. And by thinking purely, I mean without judgment. Now, why do we judge? Where do these judgments come from? The answer is from our past. from our experiences in the past, whether good or bad. And these good and bad experiences shapes our personality. Or they can also come from what the society has already told us and we blindly believed it and never questioned it. So basically, a judgment always comes either from a past or a future. So actually, we are our past and we look at life through that past. So when you think you are observing, you are actually judging, because true observation is without judgment. True observation is a state of mindfulness, a state of present, a state of pure seeing. Think about it. If you meet someone now who has hurt you in the past, what will be your thoughts about them? Do you see them as who they are now or were in the past? Are you seeing them through present or are you seeing them through your past? This living from the past is judgment. Yes, this living from the past is judgment. That's conditioning, and this conditioning, living from the past, is the root of so many mental and emotional struggles. That's one perspective. Now let's talk about the other perspective, which I love. Let's turn inward, our own inner self. When the observed is inside us and we are not observing something outside, something external. Now, when do we observe inside us and how? Well, you already know this and you have done it multiple times. Haven't you heard people saying heart versus mind, how to control your mind, how to control your emotions, how not to feel pain? Krishnamurti'S philosophy puts a full stop to all of these silly questions. He says the observer is the observed and the observed is the observer. Let me repeat it again for you. Please hear me up closely. The observer is the observed is the observer. Or simply, if I put it simply for you, it will be that the thought is you. That emotion is you. They are not separate, they are you. I want your full attention. Please listen to me. Whenever there are two entities, two objects, there is comparison, right? Which leads to conflict. And then when there is conflict, there is a need to control, resist, or avoid any one of the object. But when there are not two entities, when there is only one single entity, when there is no other entity to fight with, no comparison, then there is no conflict. And when there is no conflict, there is no control. There is no second thing to fight with. So this conflict inside us begins when we want to control. And when we think that we and our emotions are two different things. That we and our emotions are separate. We and our emotions are enemies of each other and one need to control and the other must be controlled. And that's why we struggle. But the truth is, you are that emotion. You are that thought. And when you consciously, with your full awareness, see this truth, that emotion disappears. It dissolves. Why? Because now there's no other thing to be controlled. So there is no conflict or fight left. So you don't need to control, deal your thoughts or emotions. Because simply you cannot. What you can do rather is that simply just see, notice, see what the emotion is. Let it occupy you completely, feel it, become it. Now you are that emotion. And then you'll notice that your emotion begins to dissolve, it disappears. And it turns into clarity. For example, let us understand with this an example, okay? You say, I feel angry. Now I is the observer and the anger is the observed, right? Two entities, I and the anger. Two entities arises a conflict. One needs to be controlled. And when you try to control it, it's difficult and you struggle. But when you realize that I am the anger, I am the anger. The anger is gone. It dissolves. Magic, right? But no, it's not magic. It's neuroscience and this is the ultimate truth. You know, Elon Musk once said that when you feel fear in your heart, look into the eyes of that fear and it will disappear. Now what that means? Isn't it the same idea? Because to look into the eyes of fear means to consciously accept that I am the fear, and trust me, once you do, boom, it's gone. But most people never do this. They either run or try to control it, go to therapies, barely actually accept that it's not an enemy who needs to be controlled. It's not something separate. It is me. It's my reflection. It's actually the mirror. It's actually the mirror and not the enemy. But here is where it goes even deeper. Krishnamurti did not mean that we should merely accept emotions as a part of us. He meant something even more subtle, that the me who accepts the emotion that is accepted are both moments of the same mind. Now, what it means? It means that the one who observes and the thing that is observed, they both rise together and they both end together. Didn't understand? Try to notice this in yourself. When you feel angry, the thought is, I am angry. This thought appears at the exact same time as the feeling anger itself. Make sense? They both are born together. There is not first an I standing outside watching that emotion or anger. Both appear in one single instant. And if you see this without forcing it, just quietly notice, in that very noticing, the division disappears. Because there was never really an observer looking at the observed. There was only one movement of consciousness. And when that movement is seen clearly, it becomes still and silent on its own. You don't need to silence it, you don't need to still it. That is actually the silence and stillness Krishnamurti pointed towards. The silence that comes naturally, when the mind stops dividing itself into parts or entities. You and the division, the minds and the division. And it's one, single. There is no observer to control and no observer left to be controlled. There is only one seeing, only awareness itself. And in that awareness, there is peace. Not the peace that comes after struggle, but the peace that has always been there once you stop struggling. The more you struggle by controlling or running away from an emotion, for example, pain, the more worse it gets, the more longer it gets, and during that duration, you suffer. Because you are running a distance. You are running a distance. If you run the duration between you and that emotion, the more you will suffer. But when you accept that you are that emotion, no time gap, no duration, no distance run, that emotion, pain, will turn into understanding and clarity. And you will be able to heal that pain and learn from it eventually. That's how beautifully this works. The observer is the observed. I tried my best to make it as simple as I can. So now whenever you feel anything you don't want to, don't run. Just accept whatever is that and say consciously, I am this, and it will dissolve. It will no longer control you, or neither you will have to control it. Now before you leave, just take a moment. Close your eyes. Feel whatever is present in you without naming it, without judging it. Now that stillness, that silence, that is where the observer and the observed become one. Thank you so much for watching. This is my first YouTube video, and for more content like this, make sure to subscribe.